Hey guys, welcome back to our second attempt at this Crossings Conversations, and we had a blast doing it last time. I hope you had a chance to listen to that. We talked with Chris about his call to plant a church, and today we've got another topic on, although we do want to come back to that. Our plan is to come back and talk with Chris a little bit about the equipping and some of the stuff that he's been through, but today we're going to take a shift and discuss a different topic. So I'm sitting here, we got all of our staff present. This is a glimpse into the craziness of a usual staff meeting for Crossings Community Church. So we've got Chris Kipp right here, our worship and community pastor.
Hello, hello.
And we've got Danielle, our family pastor.
Yes, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk through our own personal struggles, wrestling, kind of what the Lord's done in our heart amidst this pursuit of pursuing a permanent ministry home. So each of us is going to kind of go around and just kind of share that wrestling match, and we're going to discuss those, and then based on kind of how that goes in time, we might get into some of the frequently asked questions that we've been asked around this as well. So here we go. Daniel's up first. Daniel, share with us just some, maybe one or two of your own personal struggles or wrestling, as we've, over the years now, since you've been an elder for quite some time, been discussing and just pursuing the Lord with this idea of having a permanent ministry home.
Well, as you guys know, it's kind of a silly question because I haven't had any struggles or wrestling through this. No, I've had quite a bit. One of the big things is, and it's probably true for many of our members, they've come out of mega churches, and for them, those weren't necessarily places that they thrived, although people do thrive in those environments. But I as well came out of a mega church where I felt like the emphasis were on first-time visitors, guests, and there wasn't a ton of energy being poured into the members. And, you know, many years ago, came to Crossings and felt like, wow, we're really about pouring into our members and seeing their lives transformed. We know our people intimately, and that's something we try really hard to do as elders, is to know our people, know where they're at, how to pray for them, how to shepherd them well. And so I think coming out of a mega church experience, the pendulum seems to swing the opposite direction, almost in some cases erratically, and whatever, you know, that past experience was that we were in, we swing the opposite way, and we think, well, this must be good.
To the extreme.
Yeah, absolutely, to the extreme. And I think we've seen that, we've talked about this a lot, whether it's in promoting some upcoming event or Easter Sunday, or, you know, there's different areas where we've swung the pendulum so far that it probably really wasn't healthy. And so I think this has been an area for me where the pendulum has swung so far the opposite direction that I've really had to struggle and wrestle through. All right, where's, you know, just trusting the Lord in this. And so my big concern was, hey, we're going to become a church. If we pursue a permanent ministry facility, we're going to become a church that's all about guests, all about visitors, and our members are secondary in that. They're simply a means to bring in new people to fill the seats. And so, you guys know, we've had some pretty tense conversations around, hey, are you guys actually kind of helping me understand that, no, our vision is still all about engaging, equipping, and empowering homes for gospel transformation. And we truly do see this as a means to grow our own people. I mean, the reality is we want guests.
Yeah.
We want people who've never heard the gospel to come hear the gospel, or we want people who are not in a church or are currently in a church where the gospel isn't being proclaimed. We want them to sit under good teaching and hear what it means to follow Jesus, and not just to go through the rituals of a Sunday morning. So we're still completely committed to gospel transformation. And we want to have a healthy church, and part of a healthy church is that we have people, a flow of people, new people coming through the door. So I think that conversation we had, a tough conversation, really, I mean, it helped me tremendously to go, man, we're still all about engaging, equipping, and empowering homes for gospel transformation. And if that is our vision, and that's something we're pursuing, and that this building isn't going to become dictate our pursuit or dictate how we do ministry, I can get on board in a big way and say, praise God, let's go for this. Let it be a way, a means by which our people can grow. Let it be a means by which they can even grow in their pursuit of neighbors and coworkers and friends, and then there's some logistical things. We miss out on a lot of corporate opportunities, corporate worship nights, corporate prayer nights, simply because we don't have a space that can hold all of our people. And so there's going to be a lot of good that comes out of permanent ministry facility. And so I think the wrestling match now for me has changed, being that I'm fully confident that our vision and mission is the same: engage, equip, and empower homes for gospel transformation. Right. Now the wrestling match has become, what are our people going to perceive how we're talking about this, and are they going to think that we're trying to manipulate them
right,
to get money?
Yeah.
And what I come back to every time is my hope, my prayer is we have enough invested. They know us well enough. Many of our people have been with us for years, and they know us intimately. Yeah. So hopefully when those thoughts come up, they could look back on personal experiences, personal conversation that we had with them, and understand that this isn't a way to manipulate them towards money. When we say this is about them growing in faith and trusting God and their journey of faith, and it's all about them, and as much as it's about seeing those outside of our church and in our community hear the gospel. Right. My hope is that they can embrace that as well.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's good. I think there's a lot of wisdom in being able to see and discern the way those past experiences form our thoughts, because it's like a rut, that you kind of constantly fall into. Your past experience gives you these paths, and it's almost like if you don't give it significant intention, you're going to constantly fall back into those ruts of past experience. Right. I mean, I've felt the same thing with myself, and just with other church experiences of, if this happens, if we do this, then that means we're necessarily going to do that. Yeah. Instead of, and this is what you're saying, Daniel, instead of going back and realizing that, no, we're not following the patterns of the world or even the church, but we're following the patterns of the biblical church. And the things that we experienced in the past don't demand that we fall down the same rut, but rather give us an opportunity, even personally and as a staff and as a church, to walk in transformation that's unique in seeing God redeem past bad experiences.
Yeah.
So I'm present at every single elders meeting and staff meeting, and I know you guys really well, and yet here I find myself in this struggle simply because of past experiences, like you're saying, Matt. And so I could only imagine how past experiences are playing in some of our members' hearts and minds. Yeah. And who aren't previewed to all the conversations that I'm previewed to, and the staff meetings, the elders meetings, and all that. So I do feel it's extremely important to say that this is all about following the call that God has on our church. This is all about our members growing deeper with the Lord, and this is all about the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ being proclaimed in our community. And so I'm fully confident that that's the vision, and us pursuing a permanent ministry facility is not changing that vision in any way, shape, or form, but it's deepening it, and it's gonna. I'm confident it's gonna deepen that in our people.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. It's good. Well, we mentioned this last time that we recorded, the fact that it would drive Chris crazy that we're not going to do any editing or punching into all this. You may hear the train that's passing in the background. And if so, that just lets you know how committed we are to this being a authentic conversation. Yeah.
It's their word.
That's right. Okay, Chris, you're up. What struggle? What's gone through your mind? What wrestling matches? You've been a part of this, maybe most recently, especially compared to the two of us, in regards to pursuing this permanent ministry home.
Yeah. I think we talk about past experience. I've served in two churches that had facilities leading up to this, and one of the questions I think is, and maybe it's a question of our people, question that I've heard specifically and thought about is, what does this do to our vision as a church? How does this change our vision, or does it sidetrack our vision? Does it pull our energy in some other direction than what our vision really drives us? And, in those two churches that I've served in, I've seen churches that were true to their mission without being sidetracked by facility. And I think that's an important thing for us to understand, is that our vision of engage, equip, empower homes for gospel transformation, if I can say that, does not change with place. It is who we are. The place is where ministry flows in and out of. And I think that distinction is very important for us. As we're not talking about a new kind of crossings. We're talking about crossings coming into a place where they have more access to a place to do ministry. And I think that's going to be a huge benefit for us. Part of my struggle in this has been really just thinking through the reverence that I have about calling anyone to a greater level of giving. Obviously we are people who believe in tithing or giving generously. Obviously, tithing being kind of an Old Testament term, and we look in the New Testament, and Jesus, expands on that. He doesn't diminish the tithe, but he expands upon the tithe. And so this idea of giving and generosity being so crucial to the walk, in our families that are our covenant members, we talk about this. We talk about part of that role as a covenant member is to be financially engaged in what's going on in our church. So I know that our families feel that. And our members, they know that, they feel that, they're walking in that. So the idea of calling them to another level, it's not scary, but it gives me a reverence, because I know that's a cost, that's a sacrifice that we're calling them to. And I think part of the resolve that I've come to in that, and it's almost become a point of passion for me in regards to this Making Room series, is that when we're asking someone to step up and to give beyond with their regular tithe and offering, what we're calling them to is really a different level of faith. And the growing of our faith in the pursuit of this permanent ministry facility, to me, is the dynamite. It's the joy. It's the beauty of this. The building, when it comes, will be such a blessing. We will praise God. We will thank God. But I think what we'll thank God for more than physical space is we'll thank God for all the transformation that we've seen in our own personal lives, in the lives of the people in our church, as we see not only just increase in giving, but more than that, we see an increase in faith. Right. People stepping out into sacrificial giving and watching God show up in their life over and over and over again. I don't know if you're listening to this, if you were there this past Sunday, Dennis Edge, one of our elders, our eldest elder, as we love Dennis. He's an amazing guy and gives so much wisdom, brings so much wisdom to the table. And what he shared during the welcome and the offering time was just beautiful, about how he and Deanna chose to give at a point that really didn't make a whole lot of sense. They were in the middle of a downturn in the oil and gas industry. This was back in the 80s, a major downturn. Things were falling apart. The wheels are falling off oil and gas companies, downsizing, mergers, buyouts, layoffs, very similar to some of the things that we've been seeing in the last couple of years here in the Houston area. And yet in the midst of all of that, they felt God had given them a calling to give. And then when it came to that moment of having that commitment card staring them in the face, they doubled it. And Dennis was humorous. He said he might as well could quadrupled it, because the idea of being able to give this was so crazy. It didn't make any sense. And yet there was a boldness about that for them to commit to something that was deeply sacrificial. And they saw that. They look back on that point now and see it as a pivot point in their life, in their faith, where they grew in their walk with God. And they also saw so many blessings begin to come into their lives. And just an incredible story of faithfulness, one on the part of Dennis and Deanna to make a step of faith. Secondly, on the part of God to say, I honor your sacrifice, and I'm going to provide for you. And so just a beautiful picture of this kind of upside down kingdom where giving is gaining, and all these just kind of paradoxical ideas that come with following Jesus.
Yeah.
And money is just the means in this case, right? Like, so what we're saying is, we desire for all of our people to be growing deeper and trusting the Lord, right?
Oh, absolutely.
That we're all walking by faith, because there's so many areas of our life on a day-to-day basis, small and big, where we're not trusting the Lord. And in not trusting the Lord, we're filled with anxiety and so many other things. And money is one of those big stressors in a lot of our people's lives.
Absolutely. Our lives at
yeah,
times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in our lives as well. And Chris, you saying that we desire for our people, what we're going to be thankful for at the end of this process is the stories of faith, the stories of our people walking deeper in faith. That may come with tremendous struggle.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, Dennis's story is awesome, and it came with, he even spoke about financial blessing coming out of it, right?
Yeah.
The reality
I don't
is,
think it was an immediate.
Right, yeah.
But like you walked out of the church building and there was like $10,000 check.
It was
Praise
raining.
God.
And the reality is, it's gonna cause struggle. Maybe not for all of our homes, but we're going to have less because we've chosen to trust the Lord and walk by faith. And but there's blessing in that. There's tremendous blessing in that, and we just desire for our people to be trusting the Lord and walking in deeper, more intimate layers of faith, in all areas of our life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And in this case, what we're calling them to is financial. It is money, and that's a means by which they're going to be walking, or at least our hope and prayer is walking in deeper faith and trusting the Lord, and hopefully that starts to bleed in all areas of their life.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that type of faith and commitment breeds other faith and commitment that spreads into and touches every part of life.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's real good. I was blessed by Dennis's testimony. As soon as he walked off, I told him, all right, Dennis, you're preaching next week. His family, his faithfulness, his wisdom, they are such an incredible blessing to us as elders and as our church.
Much agreed.
As a church. Okay, Chris, we've been asked this before. I think maybe it was alluded to, if not asked this way, as we were having the discussion with our small group leaders some time ago. But at the same time, it's kind of the craziness of this. I shared at the Vision series, and we've mentioned a couple times along the way, is that at the same time that we are pursuing this commitment financially in the pursuit of God's call on Crossings Community Church to pursue a permanent ministry home, we're also pursuing the vision that God's given our church to be a church planting church. And we talked in the last podcast how even the confirmation of that vision for us as a church was the provision of you. Yeah. And so we're excited about that, but there's been questions around the idea of maybe how might Chris feel about this idea of us pursuing these at the same time and the financial impact of that? So, Chris, speak to that. Speak to that.
Well, just as we're talking about in a family's household, in a given household, how one step of faith encourages other steps of faith. I think this is kind of a perfect illustration for the bigger household of the family of God known as Crossings Community Church, is that one step of faith kind of begets other steps of faith. And so I don't see them as competing. I think it's one and the same. It's part of this faith walk for us, is that we're constantly finding ourselves kind of reaching beyond our grasp, in over our heads, doing things that are maybe bigger than what we had thought. They require more than what we'd planned for. All those kinds of things that just come with this walking in obedient faith to the Lord. And so, God owns it all. God provides in beautiful and miraculous ways. And so, for me as the church planter, I feel no feeling of like I'm in some way going to be slighted or some way, because I have so much faith and trust in God's ways of provision, that I know that He's going to work mightily in both arenas. I just know it. I know it's going to happen. So. I think it's a valid question, because it doesn't totally make sense, and but that's the beauty of faith, is that the wisdom of the world is foolishness with God, and the wisdom of God seems like foolishness to the world, and yet there's a beauty in that, of seeing Him provide in miraculous ways.
And I think it speaks to the fact that us having a permanent ministry facility is not the Zion, right? The promised land.
Yeah.
Right. It's when we say this is what we feel like the Lord's calling us to, a permanent ministry facility. We're not waiting till we get there to then say, okay, now that we've gotten here and we have this permanent ministry facility and we're at this certain size of people, now we can start planting churches. I mean, this is something that we've been walking in for the past 3 years. Of whether it's Houston Church Planners Network and supporting them, and it's a huge desire of our heart, and us doing this at the same time as pursuing a permanent ministry facility speaks to the fact that the permanent ministry facility is not we've arrived. It's simply us following and trusting the leading of God, and we're going to continue to do that while this huge vision of seeing churches being planted out of Crossings Community Church grows.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. I like what you said too, Chris, about the they're not two separate ideas. One will inflame the other. And I don't think it's one or the other, but I think there's kind of this mutual accelerant between the two of them, that the pursuit of planting of the church will grow the faith of those who God's calling to give. Those who God's calling to give, their faith will then grow as we pursue church planting. And so there's this storm of growing faith that really, pursuing both of them, increases the sum at the end, rather than them being two things that compete. And I think that's a great picture. Well, my personal struggle, related to the other guys here, but still maybe a little different. The pursuit of a permanent ministry home, that idea has not been a struggle for me, because it was in my heart from the beginning. And as I shared in the first week of the series, there's been different little pursuits and different little journeys along the way of where that discussion has come up, and where God kind of said, well, not yet, wait. And so not the idea of the permanent ministry home that I've struggled with, but to be honest, it's really been more around this idea of challenging people to a financial commitment. And maybe connecting to Daniel there, I think the reason that that's been an issue with me is because of the way that I've seen it happen in the past. And, it's left a bad taste in my mouth. So I kind of had that rut where I felt like, hey, if we move and ask people to make a financial commitment to this vision, then in my mind, that took us necessarily down this unhealthy path, just like what Daniel was describing. But I think the misunderstanding for me and the peace that came for me in that was really understanding that it's not about me. And that was the root issue that I had with viewing it being done in unhealthy ways. As I saw it connected with an individual, a personality, the building of a kingdom that was aside from Christ's kingdom. And so I think the piece that God brought through, it was largely through our last elders retreat, but also just conversations and time in his word, was that this has nothing to do with Matt. I'm not asking people to give to Matt's vision. And that was, even though maybe I couldn't state it that way, that was the struggle that was in my heart. And so understanding that, as we were at our elders retreat and everybody, all the elders were kind of rejoicing in this reality of God is doing something amazing at Crossings Community Church. What better investment in this world could somebody give to aside from a church that's pursuing God's glory through his truth by his grace in a community that needs transformation like Katy, Texas. Right. And that idea to me was freedom, to hear that from the men that I journey with and the men that I trust, the men that encourage me, hold me accountable, to hear that. And it was a good confirmation for me to be able to say, yes, this isn't Matt's vision. This isn't Matt asking for money or commitment for Matt's idea, but this is me taking this harmonious voice of the elders who have spent time with the Lord in prayer, pursuing God's vision for God's church, which includes a permanent ministry home. And so the confidence for me there just doubled and tripled. I mean, yes, absolutely. I can ask anyone to do something for the glory of God. Yeah. I've never had an issue with that. Yeah. I can boldly challenge anybody to do anything for God's glory. Yeah. Where I struggle is to ask anyone to do anything for Matt's glory. Right. And so I think God giving me the freedom in that amidst that conversation of the elders retreat, and of course just a lot of other things, the way that God works by connecting a lot of dots in a lot of different circumstances. But so that leads us here to where we've talked about it for several weeks over this series, but we're approaching that commitment Sunday on May 7th, and I honestly, years past, I would have had a lot of apprehension about making that request, that challenge to commit on a Sunday. But I have no qualms and no anxiety about us approaching that Sunday for that reason and that reason alone. God's given me a peace that challenge is a challenge that we are extending as elders, and for one purpose, to engage, equip, and empower homes for gospel transformation for the glory of God. Yeah. There's no other agenda there. Yeah. We're not changing our vision to be somebody else. We're not compromising anything. We're continuing to pursue the vision that God's provided for his glory. And so for that reason, that brought peace amidst my internal struggle.
Absolutely. I was thinking this morning how at any given point, probably in every moment of your life, God has two forces at work, and they're kingdom forces. And one is what God is wanting to do in you. And at the very same time, it's what is God wanting to do through you. And I think this is such a beautiful picture of a collision of those two things, because your family being a conduit through which God supplies the church, but at the same time, he's doing something in you as you take those steps of faith, and just a beautiful picture of how God's kingdom is always advancing, and yet at the same time always ministering deeply to the person who is partaking of the kingdom. So both are active.
So, Matt, would you, like, in describing your struggle, would you say it's something that you finally found the words to articulate what was going on, or you've known this is going on inside of you? Are you following me? So my question is, there's a lot of times where I have a struggle. I can't put words around it, and me being unable to put words around it or to think deeply on it so that I can put words around it causes me to point to a lot of peripheral things. And the reason I'm asking this specific question is because I think some of our people, hopefully as they're hearing us discuss our own struggles, are maybe able to put words to some of the, I'm just going to say, the yuckiness that they may feel inside around this pursuit.
Yeah.
Right? And so I asked that question, but I'm also asking the people who are listening, like, to really try to wrestle with and put words around whatever hesitation there may be. And is it based on past bad experiences that they've seen, or abuses that are present within some churches?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think the big picture general struggle I've kind of been aware of as something I fight, because I think in the biggest picture sense, it's what you mentioned, Daniel, and what we discuss a lot, of swinging too far away from bad previous experiences. However, I think what happens, I want to say that always, but that's the Matt's world, and that's not a Bible verse I can quote on this one, but I think you can have big picture struggles, but when you begin addressing financial things, they come to a head. That's like, it's one of the best indicators of the heart. You can struggle with something nonchalantly. It can be big picture. It can be somewhere out there. You can avoid addressing it. But when something hits your pocketbook and you begin praying about financial realities, I think that really draws the struggle down to, the head of a needle, or it makes it so specific that then you're forced to wrestle with it. Yeah. And this also gets back to what you were saying, Chris, in terms of the transformation in the faith. As we discuss, and this is another thing that makes me excited about this call to faith to give, is that this is truly maybe one of the best examples of us walking in the vision of our church, because how challenging is the call to transformation when you begin talking about people's money?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's what we're all about, right? Yeah. We are a church that exists to see lives transformed.
Yeah.
What better way to see lives transformed than begin to talk about people's money and ask them to make a commitment to do something that demands faith? So I do think this journey has taken that personal struggle and made it, taken me down to the root of it. So it's a good question.
And the hope is that people do wrestle with it.
Yes.
Right? Because the other reality that we see a lot is when it's brought to a head, it's easy for us to want to just pack up and run.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Not wrestle with it, but blame it on some peripheral circumstance in our life, and just pack up and run. And we grieve when we see that happen. And at the same time, I see the tendency in my own heart to want to just pack up and run versus wrestle with what's going on here. Why am I finding my heart, my mind in this spot, and really sit and wrestle with it and have some difficult conversations. And it will bring it to a head. And the hope is, our hope and prayer for all of our people is that there's actually a wrestling match and not a packing their bags.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to address two other questions Maybe quickly, if possible. First one is quick. The second one we may be able to spend a couple minutes on. But the first one I think that was really great that we were asked by one of our prized leaders was, how do we address a situation? And Chris, you can speak to this because it fits into our small group pursuit. How do we address a family who's so swallowed up in maybe some poor decisions that they've made earlier in life, and where debt is just so impending on them, that asking this question of how are we supposed to give when we're feeling the repercussions of maybe poor decisions we've made in the past?
Oh yeah, and I think it's such an important question, because many people are going to find themselves in that place. It's just part of our culture. When in the college campus, when they're handing out free T-shirts, when you sign up for that credit card. And you're like, woohoo, free money, and
Yeah.
so, and that free money is not so free as you learn, as you grow older. And, I think it's an important thing for us to understand. Obviously, in this podcast, we cannot speak to all of that. We're actually going to be starting a group this summer. It's a Financial Peace University group. It's teachings based on Scripture, by Dave Ramsey, and then there's times for a small group discussion based around that, where you and your spouse can go through, kind of both be under the same exact teaching together, and then immediately talk about what would this look like for our family. And I think there's a lot of wise steps that need to be considered that are both wise, it's stewarding, and yet it's also faith at the same time. And so I think it's going to be a great opportunity starting this summer for families that find themselves in that position to get some greater equipping.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. Our goal, again, transformation. It's not if you're listening to this and you feel like that's you. I'm in this place where I'm at the bottom of this pit or this hole because of debt and financial issues. We're not saying success for us at Crossings Community Church is you to pledge a certain amount of money to this permanent ministry home. Our ultimate goal is your transformation through understanding biblical financial stewardship.
Yes.
And so as we provide this resource, our encouragement is get involved in this group to be able to walk that faith journey, transformation journey, to be able to find biblical financial health, and then God will bring you to a place where you will be able to give financially to this pursuit. Yeah. Okay, last question that we'll discuss here. All three of us will kind of chime in on this. This is one that we've received. And the question goes something like this in all of its various forms is, can't we continue doing what we're doing without purchasing land, without having a facility? One of you guys want to jump in on that?
I think we can. I think the answer is we definitely can continue doing what we're doing. But like we've said, this is a journey that we feel like the Lord's taking us on.
Yeah.
And it's the hope and prayer for us as elders is faithful obedience to what the Lord is calling us to. And we're not a group of elders that have been gung-ho from day one. We've got to have a permanent ministry facility. If anything, it's been quite the opposite.
Yeah.
But we, as the Lord's been dealing with our hearts in this, and like you talked about, Matt, at the elders retreat, us confidently saying, yes, this is what the Lord's calling us to. As we're sitting here and as we've talked this out many times in staff meetings, elders meetings, we can see how the Lord is challenging us in some of our fears and challenging our terrible pendulum swings. And we can see confidently how the Lord's going to use this in the heart of our people. So could we continue doing ministry? Absolutely. We could continue doing ministry without a permanent ministry home. But we would lose sight of our vision, which is to walk faithfully in what the Lord's calling to us. And I think that's the bigger picture here. Yeah. We want to be obedient to the Lord's calling. Yeah. And this is what all the elders confidently feel like the Lord is calling us to. And as we've talked about, we see how it's going to impact our people. And our hope and prayer is that there's going to be greater trust in the Lord, greater joy in the Lord's provision, greater excitement to see those who don't know Christ to come into a deep, intimate relationship with Him, right? There's many things we want to see our people grow in and us personally grow in. And Yeah, so it's all about walking in obedience to the Lord.
Yeah.
Good.
I think about that question, just a lesser example, if we could de-escalate the scenario to, I can lead worship at our church without a sound system. It's possible, but it's more difficult, right? But when we purchase a sound system, I have a tool that enhances the ability to lead worship for our church. And I think if you kind of now blow that back up into the realm of a facility, what we're talking about is also equipping our church currently, and the church, the people that God's going to continue to bring to Crossings, the families that he's going to join with us, the people that will be reached through our families and through our community groups and through our public proclamation of the gospel is enhanced. It's inflamed with a resource now that we can do that even to a greater degree. So I think, there's two ways to look, glass half empty, glass half full at this question. And I think we can also ask an equally powerful question: what can we do with the facility?
Yeah.
What does that then equip us to do? And I think that's the exciting part, because, we can't even foresee all the things that God will be able to use this facility to. We have great ideas. We have great visions of how God will use this as a place for ministry to take place, for equipping, empowering church planters, all the things that we dream about. And we know that God's going to just use this as a place. And so I think it's an important question. Again, it goes back to, will our vision change? No, we're the same church, but now equipped with a resource to enhance the ministry that God's given us.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, and I agree wholeheartedly with everything these guys have said. I mean, there are beautiful, God-glorifying, life-transforming churches around the world that do not have a permanent facility home. Ministry can be done successful in the eyes of the Lord without a building. The church is not a structure. The church is the gathered people of God. So that's an easy question to answer in that regard, but I think the more important question is the one both of these guys have brought up, and that is, what is God calling Crossings Community Church to? And it's the same thing each of us should wrestle with in our own individual lives. There are many ways that each one of us as individuals could maybe be successful, but in God's eyes, the only way that we're successful is faithful obedience. Right. And for Crossings Community Church, faithful obedience to the vision that's been given is this pursuit of transformation through the journey of the pursuit of a permanent ministry home. Right. So it is a great question, and it's one that I know that many have wrestled with, including all of us here and all of our elders. But just confidence in the call, I think, brings rest and peace to the heart in that regard.
Yeah.
That's good. Before we land this plane, anything else you guys want to add? Anything else?
I think we've been around the world and back.
Good?
I'm good.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, and love any feedback, any questions that y'all have. We had some great comments on the Facebook page in response to our last Crossings conversation, and we'll look forward to doing the next one and maybe jumping back in with Chris on some of the equipping that he's going through on his journey to plant the church. And so we look forward to hearing from you guys, and we will see you on Sunday.